The next step in our evolution. More powerful, more beautiful. I think I should call him Adam.
Nothing but wit to save the world. Save the world.
Adam.
Wit saves the world.
Assemble.
We back.
We're back. God, we do this so often. How are things? How's life?
Today's another bright new day.
So bright that it's blinding. It's almost invisible. Do you like that? That was a bit of a stretch.
We're doing the Invisible Man. We figured...
Invisible Man 2020.
We figured, hey, we've done a couple of Blumhouse movies, but not enough. So we're doing our third Blumhouse in, 6 weeks?
Is it really? Jeez. In no way sponsored by Blumhouse, but let's work on that.
Yeah, maybe we could. That'd be kind of cool, right?
Call them up. Well, it's a little too late, right? We kind of gave it up early for free.
Well, we'll give them a little taste, It's that classic, the cop comes and he's like, I gotta make sure this is good cocaine. You take it out, you taste it a little bit. I don't know what that does. Like, how much cocaine do you have to be able to taste it to know, this would be really good in my nose?
I don't know. You taste some fine wines long enough, you just get the nose for it, get the taste.
Yeah. This has got a bright nose.
Yeah, you got to build that palate, little floral afternotes.
Yeah, you build the palate as you're deviating your septum. Cocaine.
I've done that. Yeah.
Maybe we get sponsored by cocaine too.
We're here. We need the money.
We need it.
Invisible Man. Yeah, it's a movie. 2020. Internet says when Cecilia's abusive ex takes his own life and leaves her his fortune, she suspects his death was a hoax. As a series of coincidences turns lethal, Cecilia works to prove that she is being hunted by someone no one can see.
The Invisible Man is a character based on the H.G. Wells Invisible Man from 1897, I think. And then it was made into a movie in 1933. I think that was the first movie adaptation of it. We've had a few throughout the years, but it's been a bit.
Well, you're obviously a fan of the concept. You've got a tattoo.
I do have an
your
Invisible
body.
Man tattoo.
Yeah.
We'll just go ahead and put that on the screen right now.
Bam. It makes me feel like I should have a tattoo of one of these movies we've done recently. So, Adam, this movie's got some people, right? Who's in it?
Yeah, so we've got Elizabeth Moss. She has been in a bunch of TV shows that have done really well. West Wing, Mad Men, and then I've not seen it, but I know you have The Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah, I feel really late to the Elizabeth Moss train here, but huge fan. Man, she is so good in Handmaid's Tale. It's nightmarish.
She's joined by a guy named Aldous Hodge. He played MC Ren in the Straight Outta Compton movie. And here's a fun little thing for you and I. He was the character Kraft in that Star Trek Short Trek episode Calypso, where the guy finds Discovery years later.
Yeah. I like him.
Then we've got Oliver Jackson Cohen. He was in that Haunting of Hill House. It's on Netflix, and he's going to be in the second season as well. I'm
creeping Elizabeth Moss's Wikipedia right now. She used to be married to Fred Armisen.
Really?
Yeah, what in the world? What a great power couple.
Yeah, Fred Armisen's great.
Yeah. Oh, I love Fred Armisen. Yeah. Also, she's a Scientologist. I don't know how to feel about that.
Oh, yeah, it's kind of strange.
To each their own, I suppose.
Shout out to Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Who else?
John Travolta. And
Us? Question mark?
Dang. I mean, again, we're looking for sponsors. We'll take it. We'll take anything.
Adam, that brings us to our segment of the week. The boys get religious.
Dang. I love that we go from we start a cult to we join a cult. We've already gotten tired of this cult business is kind of tough. Maybe we should join one for a little bit, kind of see how it runs.
Leading's hard. I'm into this following thing.
Yeah.
Give me some free drinks and tell me what to do.
Man,
I'm tired.
Adam and Witte join Scientology. That's the new name of the podcast. Go ahead and
I'm into it.
We'll pop that on screen now too.
Yeah, go ahead and wipe over the old one.
Yeah. The movie was directed by a guy named Lee Whannell. He wrote the Saw movie concept and actually the first 3 films of the series. He did Dead Silence, Insidious, and actually directed Insidious 3, which was his directorial debut.
Cool. Adam, you wanna get into this cinematic universe thing? I guess this is not part of a cinematic universe. I guess you can always retroactively.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder. I mean, like, we could talk in depth about a couple of things I'm about to bring up, but the DC cinematic universe that they were trying to build, where they tried to go out at full speed and it just didn't really pick up, and
right.
But like, Marvel kind of just started releasing movies here and there and slowly built up a cinematic universe, and all these people are trying to go from like point A to point D rather than, A, B, C, D kind of thing.
Right. Everyone's trying to catch up to the Marvel thing.
Yeah, so Universal announced they were wanting to do a Dark Universe cinematic universe, which we will from this point on refer to as the Dooku. And yeah, so they had that movie Dracula Untold that came out years ago that flopped, where Dracula kind of had Batman powers and can make like a bunch of he could turn into like 1,000 bats, and it was a strange, not great movie.
I didn't hate it. I don't remember hating it. It felt like a weird war movie more than a... Yeah, that was, I think, a little concern. We haven't seen that Mummy movie yet. Maybe that's the next pod. We'll see. But it felt like they were trying to put a lot of action in our horror franchise.
Yeah, and so they had the Dracula Untold, and it didn't do well, and the Dooku was going to die, but then they decided to do the Tom Cruise Mummy movie, the Mummy reboot, which, I mean, justice for Brendan Fraser. I mean, that guy is still young enough to do more Mummy movies. I mean, even a reboot. Put him back in there. The Mummy was going to be the new start of the Dooku, which neither of us have seen, but I do know some spoilers that we won't really get into, but they kind of really drive home that this is going to be the beginning of a cinematic universe. And I think it was either right before the movie came out or like soon after they announced that the Dooku's back on. Javier Bardem was going to be in it. Johnny Depp was going to be...
we're back.
Fun fact, the Invisible Man.
Yeah, I remember Depp. I just remember this one picture they released that had a bunch of the actors all sitting together in black and white or something, yeah.
Mummy, Tom Cruise movie came out. It critically flopped and financially flopped. The movie and shared universe for The Invisible Man was completely scrapped. But then in 2019, the plan was to start doing these as solo films, which is how we get to where we are today. They announced they were going to do an Invisible Man movie, kind of standalone. Blumhouse was going to have it.
I mean, again, I guess you can always go back afterwards, and there's no reason a sequel couldn't have some more, right? All those Universal classic monsters used to hang out in each other's movies every once in a while.
That's true. Yeah, there were some kind of weird crossovers, and I mean, I still think it would be cool, and I think it could do well as long as you took your time to do it. I just hope that the success from The Invisible Man that we're about to dive into doesn't cause them to jump the gun and start doing this huge shared universe and the next movie's like horrible trash.
Right.
I guess the opening scene, we see Elizabeth Moss, aka Cecilia. She's kind of in bed with a guy who we don't know who it is yet. She's just kind of lying there for a little bit, and then she tries to get out of bed. You can tell she's trying to get out of there as quiet as possible, Quietly walks over to his side of the bed. She picks up like a water glass that's next to it and kind of swirls it around, and we can see that there was something that has dissolved in there, and one could assume was some sort of sleeping pill. And this opening scene is so tense and like really kind of puts you on edge because it's so quiet and feels so stressful.
And she's clearly terrified too, right? Like the idea of her getting caught, even just trying to leave this guy's house, like she's petrified.
Yeah,
and so you start to feel that yourself for sure.
With no true like exposition on top of it, and there's no speaking at all during this. They so quickly let the audience know like this is a dire situation. We need her to get out of here quietly, or it's going to go poorly,
Right.
And nothing is said. Like,
you're never concerned that she drugged him. It seems very clear that she deserves to get away from this guy. Yeah.
She grabs a bag and her shoes, and she even like moves this camera that's at the door over him so that she can later cut off all the camera feeds, but just have that one on him so she can check it to make sure that he's still asleep through her different stages of getting out of here.
Pretty smart move.
Yeah, she kind of, you can tell that she's put some thought into how to do this. As she's leaving to get through the garage, she walks through what can only be described as a home laboratory, and she kind of passes this like weird little glass closet that's got some sort of, either a machine or something that's meant to hold something, but there's nothing there. They kind of pan to that and just have her keep walking.
Or is there, Adam?
Yeah, we'll find out pretty soon that there may be something there. As she's getting out of there, they do such a good job again. The camera is like panning around so slowly during this opening sequence, and it kind of reminds me a lot of like the Paranormal Activity like scenes where the camera is just kind of moving around and you're paying attention more to what's around the character because you're just waiting for something to be there.
Yeah. The movie does a really great job with that. They give you these really wide still frame, like they just kind of leave the camera there, and you're just kind of staring at an empty room. I guess because they just know that as the audience, you're just trying to look for any tiny movement in the room. But yeah, they do a really good job with that because there's plenty of times they just show you a still frame of a room and nothing moves. You're kind of getting that tension built up in the same way that she is.
She's able to get out of the house. She's got a plan in place where her sister's going to pick her up. She's going to kind of run out. As she's getting out of there, she accidentally bumps into the car and sets the car alarm off, but she takes off and she gets out of there pretty quickly. We do have that scene as her sister doesn't really know what's going on, and Cecilia's like, we need to get out of here, go, go, go. And then you just see, like, coming into frame, her husband.
He comes out of nowhere and smashes the hell out of that window. And yeah, I mean, the movie's done a pretty good job up to that point of putting you on Elizabeth Moss's side, but this is the moment when you realize exactly why she's leaving.
Yeah,
right?
this dude is crazy. And as the car's going away, the guy Adrian kind of runs after him a little bit and slowly starts walking back, and he picks up a prescription bottle. We get a 2-week time jump. Cecilia's staying with her friend, which is James Aldous Hodge, and we kind of see that, even though it's been 2 weeks and she's away, like, Adrian isn't supposed to know where she's at, but she's been afraid to leave the house, so they're kind of doing little things slowly to have her get more comfortable. We get the scene where she's trying to walk out to the mailbox to get the mail, and we see a guy jogging with sunglasses and a hoodie on, and
that guy, no one jogs with sunglasses and a hoodie on.
And not in that, like, weird, like, he looked like he was a bad guy, right? Like, they were really good job again.
They very much just found an extra and just said, like, just jog in the most menacing way possible.
Like, if you could somehow make it look like you were for sure going to kidnap somebody on this street, it doesn't matter who.
Yeah.
Just do that and start running that way.
Yeah, but she's clearly traumatized, some level of PTSD. She thinks that he's still got eyes on her. He thinks that he must know. She thinks he must know where she is, and that it's just a matter of time until he comes and gets his hands on her.
We find out from Cecilia's sister. She comes over and tells her that Adrian's dead. They actually killed himself. They pull up an article, and you notice in the art. I didn't notice the first time I watched the movie, but in the article it talks about him being a some sort of like optic scientist. Which is
they mention that a few times in the movie. Not as much as I kind of feel like they should have, but they do mention a few times that he's like an expert in the field of optics. I guess we're just supposed to assume that means he can go invisible, but I feel like they should have expanded on that just a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah.
Suspension
and Cecilia, she just immediately doesn't buy it. Right? She's just like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Like, he had control over everything, over everyone in his life. Just like, why would he do that? Doesn't make any sense.
And that's when we finally get some of the exposition of, she kind of, again, like you just said, she mentions how controlling he was and like every aspect of his and her life. And that in the relationship, she was being mentally and physically abused. And it kind of ended with her deciding that she needed to get out of there because he wanted a baby. And she was, secretly still taking birth control pills, but didn't know how long that would last. She just knew that she needed to get out of there as quickly as possible before he were to get her pregnant and she were to feel more stuck, With Adrian's death, we meet his brother, who's an attorney and in control of his estate. Explains that Adrian's left Cecilia like $5 million or something like that. But with a nice little asterisk, little fine print that if she were to commit a crime or to be found like mentally not sane. Yeah. And we also see in this scene that, we kind of mentioned it earlier, but his name is Adrian Griffin. And if you're familiar again with any of the Invisible Man IP, you know that the Invisible Man's name is Griffin in pretty much every iteration. You just kind of see it on his urn that's in the back of the room.
It's that tough thing again, like, as the audience, you know he must be the Invisible Man, right?
Yeah.
Or that there is one. They tease they very loosely tease the identity of the Invisible Man, I guess, at some point in the movie. But even then, it's like you said earlier, the cast is so small, they can't really do much teasing of, like, are other people the Invisible Man?
Yeah.
Like, it must be Adrian. I think that's my only real flaw with this movie, because I do enjoy it a lot, but I just feel like it's not even a twist, but the movie spends, like, the first half hour kind of framing it like a twist.
Right.
There's no way that the audience doesn't just know that he's
Yeah.
got to be. That's what the movie's about.
I guess at this point we should have a big spoiler alert. The rest of the plot of the movie is going to be spoiled. Cecilia seems a lot happier. I don't know if it's the fact that her evil controlling husband is dead or that she now has $5 million.
Both seem like pretty good reasons to be in a good mood.
You know, she buys herself some new clothing. She buys her friend James, who she's been staying with, a ladder. We see that he's been, like, working on his house kind of in some background scenes and stuff, and then even pays for his daughter Sydney to go to college. Things start getting a little wacky pretty quickly. Cecilia's got, like, weird, like, breathing on her neck every so often, but things just start popping off. Like, things are falling off the cabinets and shelves that they shouldn't. An oven knob gets turned up on its own, causing a fire to happen. Doors are opening from the inside. We even get this really cool scene of seeing breath behind her outside, you know, in the kind of cold air.
And all that stuff is really cool. They do a pretty good job with the classic, like,
invisible
stuff.
Effects. We get all those the butt indentions in chairs to see that someone's sitting there.
Yeah, he's, like, starting small fires in the kitchen and taking the comforter off them while they're sleeping. Like, it kind of just starts off as mild pranks at the beginning.
She even has, like, a job interview at one point and kind of passes out from it and gets a call from her doctor that they found a high dose of drugs in her system. And as she's on the phone, she was getting out of the shower. She looks at the sink. There's nothing there. They tell her diazepam. She looks back down at the sink, and the bloody pill bottle is sitting on the counter. She has no idea where she lost it, but as we, the audience, know, the last person to have that was Adrian Griffin.
Right, and she's had a small, a small little hunch that something's not right here. I think her friends were pretty easily, able to calm her down and kind of set her straight. No, this guy's dead. But yeah, this is your first full confirmation for her,
right?
That he is alive, and he knows that she drugged him. So he would be kind of pissed at her anyway.
Yeah, and so we get two, like, kind of big things that happen back to back again, where an email is sent to Cecilia's sister that's just like, I wish you had died instead. Like, you've never cared about me. You've never helped me. And so her sister's done. Like, she's out of here. Because again, like, who else would send this email, right? And then we get the scene where she's like crying on the floor because, like, she's lost her sister. She doesn't know what to do. James's daughter Sydney comes in there and is just like, maybe we'll have like a little movie night. I'll send Dad out to go grab his food. It'll be fine. And then Homegirl gets hit right in the face.
Yeah, that was really brutal. I couldn't help but chuckle a little bit because it was so dramatic. My jaw was on the floor.
Yeah. And that girl's nose got busted.
Yeah, Cecilia's on the floor, like, crying. Little girl comes in, and it's just like, this is the one thing that's going to get her mind off all these tough times she's going through, and then just pop right in the mouth.
There's no room to breathe. It's just one thing after the other.
Yeah, and so, of course, this little girl thinks that Cecilia's the one who popped her in the mouth.
Yeah, being the only other person in the room,
She's, like, in the house now because he's taken his daughter. He's left. He's like, I just got to get my kid somewhere safe.
He kind of told her that she needed to get out of there. He doesn't know the thing with her sister happened. He mentions, like, hey, go to your sister's house, but you don't need to be here when I get back. Right. So she does what any normal, sane person would do. She instead starts covering the house with coffee grounds. Because we do that classic, like, someone's invisible, we need to put this stuff all over the ground to find their footprints, right?
Find their footprints, yeah. And she's just, like, sitting in this tiny, tiny little corner of the room. Really great and kind of creepy scene. She crawls over and grabs the house phone and dials Adrian's cell phone number, and you hear it vibrating above her. So creepy, like in the attic above her.
So find
that just makes me wonder: does Adrian know? Is Adrian big brain enough, 4D chess enough? He's like, I know that she's gonna call my phone. Or was this shit, she's calling my phone, but I got like a good little reactionary move?
I think that he for sure knew that she would call it and find it because up there's like a little box, and she reaches in the box, and that knife that she was using before the house fire started, she finds that in a Ziploc bag. She takes it out of the bag, picks it up, not to jump too far ahead, but she puts her fingerprints on it, obviously.
It looks so blatant. Yeah, you know that the fingerprints must be important because the way the camera just frames her, like, taking this knife out of a plastic bag, holding it in her hands and kind of turning it around.
Yeah.
And just like, all right, that's fine. And she just puts it right back
Yeah, she
in.
like takes
or
a
no,
few
I think
pieces
she
of hair,
carries it
puts
around. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Little
she
self-defense.
does take it downstairs with her, where she hears a noise at the ladder, right? And as she's getting to the ladder, where she looks down, and this is probably my favorite scene in the movie, but we don't see her do it, but she reaches off camera and grabs a bucket of paint and throws it, and it gets all over, and we now see for the first time the Invisible Man.
Yeah, it's so well done because she's just staring down the
opening,
the hole in the attic. Yeah, to go back down, and the camera pans on it. I don't know if you did. I, as the audience member, didn't really see anything out of place. It's more like she hears it or feels it, kind of.
Yeah.
And she throws that bucket of paint, and he's literally like a foot away.
Oh, and they
from
do
her.
they do
Yeah.
like this big like musical crescendo. Like it's so well done. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
a very
really
tasteful jump scare for sure.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Very tasteful jump scare. I guess you kind of go into this movie expecting a lot of jump scares, and they didn't overdo it.
No, it was that is something for sure I would say good about this movie. And it's very well done in that regard as well. Like the scares feel well deserved, and
So she's been like pretty 110% that he's out there anyway, but
Now she
now
knows.
this is pretty hard confirmation that not only is he around, but this guy can go full invisible.
she gets out, runs down the street, calls an Uber, has the Uber driver drive her to their old house. And this is when she kind of is walking through and she finds an invisible suit. And we see for the first time, it's a bunch of cameras where it's basically taking the image from the back and letting you see that in the front and vice
Well,
versa.
both. Yeah.
You know.
This guy is an expert in optics, Adam.
Yeah. She takes the suit and hides it in the same little spot in the closet where she had her hidden clothes and passport and everything.
Yeah, it's got a couple of these suits, I guess. It seemed like she was hiding the suit just kind of in hope that that he couldn't wear it anymore, but I guess he's got backups.
She gets back in her Uber and they take off. It's a pretty quick scene. But again, like you see this Uber driver and they have a couple of scenes where the camera is kind of there and you can't tell, like, is this Uber driver, like, is he waiting? Like, you can tell that there's something going on. She seems distressed. But, like, I kept waiting for, like, the Uber driver's head to just go, like, you know, like
just quick snap or something.
yeah, like, is he not in the car already? Like, I just kept expecting that to end up happening.
I think he lives, right? I think this Uber driver's
he
an
just takes
unsung hero.
Takes her home. She calls her sister and apologizes and is like, hey, I know you thought this was an email, but I really need to talk to you. And so they go to a restaurant, and she kind of explains to her sister, like, hey, you know, I'm sorry, but it wasn't me, and I have proof. And as she's telling her about the suit, we get another really great scene where it's panning back and forth between the two of them talking, and the sister makes kind of a weird expression, and it pans back to Cecilia, and we see a knife floating beside her, that same kitchen knife from the attic, and we get a crazy throat slit in the middle of the restaurant.
It's so quick. The knife, she cuts her throat, and then it kind of immediately just kind of teleports into Cecilia's hand.
Yeah, back to
right?
her hand.
And she's just in shock.
It almost looks like she like caught it, but you notice, I noticed on the second watch, you see her hand get pulled back and the knife put in it. It's
because I
really
remember
well
that
done.
effect. It looked a little too like telekinesis-y, like
Yeah.
she pulled it to her. Cecilia's just in that, shock point where she's just kind of standing there holding the knife, like, put the knife down.
Yeah.
You're just holding a knife
she
up
does-
in a restaurant.
Yeah, she does eventually drop it. The restaurant's freaking out. She gets tackled to the ground. She gets put into a mental facility.
Well, her excuse is that she didn't kill her sister,
The
and Invisible
Adrian
Man
did.
killed her sister.
Yeah. And we even finally get, when she's finally put in the mental facility and everything, she's sitting there and they're closing the door, they turn the lights off, and we just hear surprise in a man's
this
voice.
to me is peak fear. I hate in all movies this idea of like we of course know the main character's not crazy.
Yeah.
But just this idea that a cop or a doctor can decide
Shutter
you're
Island,
loony,
basically.
and you're just done. You're
Yeah.
right. As soon as you say that, no one sounds crazier than the I'm not crazy person,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
I hate it. And yeah, they do because she's got like this tiny prison size mental ward room.
Yeah.
She's tied to the bed. They inject her so she'll go to sleep or whatever because she's freaking out. And yeah, the idea that he's still in that tiny room with her and now she's just tied down. He can do whatever he wants. It's really freaky.
Like, it's really not looking good for her. One of the doctors there come in and they're talking to her, and she's kind of staring off, and so, like, you can barely hear it. Like, the audio's kind of, pulled back a lot.
Sure.
But she finds out that she's pregnant.
They very, very loosely tease that earlier in the movie when she passes out and at the job interview, and there's a point where she's on the phone with the doctor. They're telling her she's got diazepam in her system, and that's like her moment where she kind of like
She kind of
breaks and realizes he must be alive, like kind of drops the phone, and you
Yeah.
can ever so faintly in the background hear the doctor like, wait, did you know, like there's other things we need to
I
talk
have to
about."
tell you.
Now we've got confirmation she is pregnant, and I mean, this is nightmarish.
We get almost immediately, like almost too much of a coincidence, the brother shows up, the attorney that's in control of Adrian's estate, and is talking to her like, hey, I'm going to have to take this money away from you because you've broken both rules. You're in a mental facility, you're deemed mentally unfit, and you've committed a crime.
Yeah, she confronts him, and he kind of immediately just drops the act from before.
He's like, all of this can go away if you keep the baby and go back to him.
Because they basically framed to her that she's in a mental ward, she's accused of murder right now, like all of that can go away. And I just want to know, like, how can he do that? Again, is this guy like Steve Jobs or something? I think that's kind of the way they frame him, right? He's ultra rich, he's ultra smart. Just wanted an inch more of that. And I guess it doesn't really matter to the plot, but
so she grabs a pen during the meeting with the brother, and she kind of tells him like, no, this is never going to happen. She leaves. Then she gets into the shower and is going to commit suicide. She's going to slit her wrist with the pen.
she even kind of openly says, like, you're not getting this baby.
He'll never
you're not
get this,
getting what you want. Yeah.
She gets a pretty good cut in.
Very visceral. Didn't like it.
And obviously the Invisible Man's there, grabs her hand, and she smiles and says, like, something along the lines of gotcha.
Right. Which was great. Even I didn't really see that coming. I thought she was really trying to do it, but she was clearly trying to trap him. And yeah it's great. She does a really great job in this movie multiple times of kind of outsmarting this guy.
Well, and then just taking the power back, right? Like, and that's such a big thing in a domestic abuse situation anyway, is finding your power.
I like that this movie used the concept of the Invisible Man to obviously like tell a kind of science fiction take on abuse and coping with abuse and that sort of thing. It's really well done in the movie. Elizabeth Moss is, I guess, got a lot of practice on that from Handmaid's Tale. That show is a nightmare. It's really great, but it's horrifying from start to finish.
She gets like 5 good stabs with that pen on the guy, and it gets to a point for the rest of the movie, his suit is kind of glitching out, where it kind of like as he's walking, it'll kind of appear, which was cool to see. And it leads
and
to
the suit is cool, right? Because in the older Invisible Man stuff, there's no suit. It's like a potion, right? Something like that.
Yeah, this is like a full body suit that's got a ton of cameras that all kind of move and kind of do like a little fisheye kind of close thing.
Yeah, it kind of looks like he's covered in eyeballs in this really sleek way.
It looks awesome.
I know we talked about the suit a bit earlier, but it looks really good. It's like a good balance between like a cool sci-fi looking concept, but it is scary. It's freaky looking.
Yeah.
There's no true face to it or anything like that. It would be cool just one time in a sequel or something to see him wrapped in some bandages or something.
Well, they do get a scene when she first gets to the mental hospital. She's getting pushed into her room. They pass a room of a guy in a bed, and he's completely wrapped head to toe in bandages. As like a little Easter egg.
I don't think I caught that.
Yeah,
That's great.
It's definitely not the Invisible Man, but I did like that little...
Just a little minor shout out. Yeah, that's awesome.
We get this crazy scene of him fighting a bunch of security officers as he's leaving the mental facility. They can't see him, and they're, to the outside eye, there's cops are shooting themselves and, jumping into walls, and it's a really cool...
There's some kind of those classic Invisible movie tricks. We've got to see the gun float up and kill somebody, that sort of thing. But I liked the way it ramped up really hard. The movie switched, at least in this moment, away from horror for a minute
To
and
like an
just
action
to straight invisible action.
Yeah.
And he is winning hard. Like, he is just wrecking cop after cop. I also really like that after this point, like, we know that the Invisible Man is real, like, not just Cecilia, but the audience, not the audience, the rest of the movie. I mean, we know that from security cameras that Cecilia did not kill 20 cops, you know.
We get this huge scene of him fighting, and he runs out, and she runs after him out into the rain.
And yeah, they've got that cool scene where, again, he's kind of walking out in the rain, like the suit's glitching. It's a really cool effect.
We finally get a full-on conversation between the two of them, where
Right.
he's like, I know what you're trying to do. I know about the baby. Come back to me. But if you don't, I will just slowly start killing everyone you love, and there's nothing you can do about it. You won't have anybody.
Right.
You might as well come back to me. But
You know,
you're-
trying to get her to blame herself for her sister's death by saying, you know, she brought her into this.
Yeah.
She shouldn't have done that. Very openly admitting, like, you know, you think I didn't know that you weren't on birth control, you know, that sort of thing. Maybe
Yeah,
the brother confirmed that earlier.
Yeah, and
but-
so, yeah, he kind of even more confirmed that he knew that she was doing it and changed the pills as a placebo.
Pills to a placebo.
Yeah.
Yeah. At this point, she is not really afraid of him anymore. She's
No.
kind of trying to take the fight to him.
So we call James, tell him, hey, don't ask questions, but Adrian is for sure alive. You need to get home.
At least at that point, like, he's gonna believe her long enough to go protect his kid.
Adrian gets to the house. He gets Sydney. Sydney does mace him, which is a pretty great scene. James shows up and just sees her on the ground like, what are you doing? You know, we get another scene of like,
Right.
why is she being held on the ground by nothing? And so then...
We've been telling you, man. There's an invisible man.
There's an invisible man. We
just
can't spell it
believe
out
it one
enough.
time. Your daughter's wrestling a ghost. Help, bro.
And so James gets pretty beat up.
Oh my God, he gets wrecked.
Yeah.
Like, they do that thing where they show him get hit, like that good hit that really knocks him out, and then they do that like 2 or 3 more times. Like, he is done.
Yeah. And so right before it looks like Adrian may be killing James, Cecilia shows up, puts like 5 rounds to the guy's chest with a.
She's known to do. I think she hits him with the fire extinguisher, right?
Well, yeah.
So
First,
she can
to
see
be
it.
able to see him, she sprays him with a fire extinguisher, I think,
Yeah.
and then.
And then multiple shots to the chest.
Yeah.
He keeps walking for a second. I was like, wait, are we adding like invulnerability to this suit? And
Yeah.
he drops pretty quick.
But, you know, we were talking earlier on that, you know, it's kind of hard to do a twist in a movie like this because you knew that Adrian had to be the Invisible Man, and they kind of spell it
Cast
for
was
you
so
out.
small.
Yeah, they spell it out for you throughout the entire movie. And we've even heard him talk again, so we know that it's him. But we pull the mask off of this guy we just killed in the hallway in the Invisible Man suit. And it's not Adrian. It's the brother.
It's the brother. So I guess the movie at this point is asking you to question: is Adrian truly dead? Is that been the whole concept, right?
Yeah.
Adrian was really dead. It was like some weird psychological shit from the brother to convince you he was alive.
Yeah, but we never see the brother and the Invisible Man, which we can't see the Invisible Man, but we never see them in the same room at the same time.
That's the thing, dude.
the thing.
Invisible.
And it cuts to the cops raiding their mansion, and they find Adrian locked up in this, like, hidden room in the basement. And apparently he got kidnapped by his brother and tied up and being held hostage for weeks.
Exonerated, right? How lucky is this? This guy's been kidnapped. I guess that's not very lucky, but tied in a secret room in the house. He's exonerated of the. He can't murder somebody. He's been tied
Yeah.
up. He looks real hungry.
Cecilia just still doesn't believe it.
She still doesn't buy it.
No.
It's not his move.
So she calls Adrian
Right.
and decides to go see him and try to talk this out. She's gonna have a
Agrees
baby,
to meet him. Yeah.
and they just need to talk it out. And she
Because again, she is pregnant with the man's child.
Yeah. So she kind of, again, she puts it all out on the table. You know, they have dinner, and she's just like, you know, if you want to be a part of my life or this baby's, you just need to be honest with me. You've gotten away with it, but I just need to know that I'm not crazy. And he just doesn't, he just tells her, like, you know, you sometimes get a little wacky. Like, I had no part in doing this. You know, like, my brother was a sick man, you know, he locked me up.
Yeah, he's saying, I know I wasn't always the best boyfriend. I want to make it better. I want to be better. But this is too far.
But
couldn't have done it.
As he's telling her all that, he's just like, you know, he kind of just says, like, I can't remember the exact line.
I believe he says, it should come as no surprise that you'd end up back with me or something like that. It's the word surprise, because he said that to her once or twice in the movie. That he texted that to her phone at one point.
It's got the same cadence. Super reminiscent, especially that scene of her in the mental facility.
If you weren't sure, there's a good bass drop, I believe, in the soundtrack.
And it also shows at this time that James has been sitting out in the car and that she's wired, because she was hoping to be able to trick him. She asks to go to the bathroom. She's in there. She's just kind of looking in the mirror like she can't believe what just happened. Like that surprise, it's put her back in that kind of sunken place. Yeah. We then jump back, very much like the beginning of the movie, we jump back to the camera feed, and it's showing him at the dinner table, and all of a sudden he's just sitting there, and his hand picks up a knife, and he slits his throat.
He fights a little bit, but not very well.
Not enough.
And yeah, very much in the same way that Cecilia's sister was killed in front of her. He is taken out. Obviously, she hid that suit a little earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
She's gone full invisible herself.
Well,
I mean,
she
who wouldn't want
comes
the
out.
suit?
Yeah, she comes out and just starts screaming, calls the cops. But you do notice that she kind of looks up at the camera to back up, so when she gets off the call, her sad expression is back to emotionless.
He's doing that kind of classic slow movie death, it's taking a long time, and yeah, I love that. She just kind of backs out of the view of the camera and very much just kind of sits there and just takes pleasure in watching him die.
As he takes his final breath, she does say, she kind of looks at him, kind of smiles and says surprise, which was a pretty great scene.
It feels like the origin story of a true invisible woman.
For sure. And so James comes running up worried, but Cecilia just is like, hey, everything's fine. He killed himself. The camera saw it. There's no question. He was like, this is what you wanted the whole time. She goes, no, but I realized that this was the only way it could turn out. And so he
looks down. She's clearly got the invisible suit in just like an unzipped duffel bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. But James is kind of with it. She kind of gives him that look like we're going to go with this story, right? He seems pretty into it.
And as she's walking away, we get that fade to black, but she kind of smiles at the camera. And then roll credits.
Invisible evil has been thwarted, and new invisible hero ? Baby rises.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. We could go for an Invisible Woman sequel. There's questionably an Invisible Baby in there somewhere.
That's true. Well, we get that weird rumor that there's another. We don't know if it's another entry in this Dooku world that this could potentially build, but it's supposed to be the Invisible Woman, but instead of Elizabeth Moss, it's Elizabeth Banks,
right?
Who's set to direct, produce, and star.
I think it's like a story she pitched and like something that she was supposed to star in and direct and stuff. Elizabeth Banks is cool, but I really liked Elizabeth Moss in this. It'd be cool to see a true sequel. I'd be into it
for sure. I don't really know what they would do.
More invisible murder, I have to know, did you like this movie?
I love the movie.
I had a great time with it. Yeah, I thought it was really well done. I don't know why. I also have liked the character of the Invisible Man. When Johnny Depp, I'm not terribly in love with Johnny Depp all the time, but was interested to see his take on it in the cinematic universe, whatever.
For sure.
I remember seeing the trailer for this and not being terribly interested in it. For whatever reason.
I think I remember texting you immediately and being like, look at this trash. I'm so upset.
Yeah, I wasn't crazy about it, but I did really enjoy it. I think Elizabeth Moss, I think a lot of this hinges on just a great performance from her,
for sure.
too. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I would totally watch it again, recommend it out, and I would be hyped on a sequel.
For sure.
All right, well, sick movie. Great time. Adam, wow, thanks for your time. What a pleasure it's been. Wrapping up here. Final words. What you got?
I don't know, man. I think I might be invisible now.
Okay. What does that mean?
I think I'm turning invisible now.
Okay. Why is that making you quiet? Why is it making you quiet, Adam? You have to talk me through the bits. You can't just dive into this invisible thing and... Adam! We're not done. Adam!
The next step in our evolution. More powerful, more beautiful. I think I should call him Adam.
Nothing but wit to save the world. Save the world.
Adam.
Wit saves the world.
Assemble. You better not be texting no girls.
Yeah.
You better keep this in the pod.